What is up, boys and girls? It's me, Vox, back at Master Duel again for another deck profile, and this time I want to show you guys my Despia Thunder Dragon deck. Despia is one of the decks in which you can splice different archetypes into it and they work really well, such as Shadows, Dark Lords, even Eldritch. But in my opinion, I believe that the most lethal combinations, especially if played properly, is with Thunder Dragons actually. Thunder Dragons have such powerful effects when they are banished, and in combinations with your cards like Branded in Red or with your Allure of Darkness, you can actually go for more extensions and you can have better end boards that you could not if you didn't have Thunder Dragons into your deck. So let's go straight into the deck profile. For the hand traps first, we go with obviously triple Maxi, triple Ash Blossom, and 2 Called by the Grave, the standard. We will start with the Despia core first, which is triple Despian Tragedy. Despian Tragedy is a searcher for your Despia monsters if it's sent to the graveyard or banished by a card effect in any way. And you can also banish it from your graveyard, and then you can target one branded spell or trap into your graveyard and you can set it into your field. You can trigger a Despian Tragedy with cards like your Allure of Darkness, with your branded opening, etc. But you need to keep this in mind that if you choose to discard it with cards like Fallen of Albas or Super Poly, for example, which discard as cost, your Despian Tragedy will not activate. Your Edgeship Chain will activate because it doesn't have that extra text that it says by a card effect. Like Edgeship Chain will not care. But I'm just saying this as a small tip in case you didn't know. Then we play triple Allure of the Jester of Despia, your best normal summon. What it does is, if it's normal special summon, you can basically search one of your branded spell or traps from your deck and you get it into your hand. And if a face-up fusion monster you control is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, while Allure is in your graveyard, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, you can special summon Allure, and you negate that targeted monster effect until the end of this turn. Really powerful card, obviously your best normal summon. We play one Fallen of Albas. Fallen of Albas is basically Super Poly on legs. If he's normal special summoned, you discard one card as cost, and then you fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters on either field as fusion material. So one Fallen of Albas and one monster your opponent controls, but you cannot use other monsters you control fusion material, obviously. So you will use your Fallen of Albas as interruption most of the times, because you will special summon him off of effects of like your Despian Corridus, etc. But we'll go into the extra deck in a bit. Continuing to the deck profile for our Despia cards, as we've said, triple Allure with one Fallen of Albas. Then we run one Dramaturge of Despia. What Dramaturge does is, if you use it as a material for a fusion summon and it goes to the graveyard or that it is banished, you can special summon it back into the field again, and when it's on the field, if a Synchro, Fusion, Exceed or a Link monster is special summoned, you can target one effect monster in the field and you negate its effect until the end of this turn. 3k bit stick, pretty powerful. That's why we only play one though, because you can recur it and get into the field back again and again. So that's why it's only one. You only need one. We play one Albion the Sworded Dragon. Albion is basically your upstart goblin for the deck, but what he does is, his name is Fallen of Albas while he's on the field or in the graveyard. And if this card is in your hand or in your graveyard, you can send one Fallen of Albas or branded spell trap from your hand or deck to the graveyard and applying the following effect based on where you send it from. So if you send a card from your hand, you can special summon him to the field. If you send a branded spell or trap or Fallen of Albas from your deck, you can place this card on the bottom of the deck, and if you place this card from your hand, you draw one card. Usually you will activate the second effect to search, but there could be applications obviously where you could just special summon him to the field as a 2.5k bit stick monster, which is not bad at all. But usually you will activate the second effect to send a branded spell or trap card that would most of the times be branded opening, and then you would get Albion back to the bottom of the deck to draw one. And lastly, for the Despia monster lineup, we play two Ad Libitum of Despia. Ad Libitum is basically a Dramaturge, but with more options to special summon. What it does is, if it's used from your hand or field as a fusion material and is sent to the graveyard or is banished, you can target one of your Despia monsters or level 8 or higher fusion monsters that are banished or in your graveyard, except Ad Libitum of Despia, and you can special summon them. basically, with that special summon effect, you have so many applications for so many cards. You could even special summon your Luber again in order to search for a branded spell or trap card. You could even special summon your Phoenix Enforcer if you got banished somehow. That's why I choose to play 2. It's such a powerful card if you actually know when to use it. Its first effect can come up sometimes. During your main phase, you can make all monsters currently in the field gain attack equal to their own level, plus 100, until the end of your opponent's turn. Keep that in mind, that if you use the first effect to actually gain attack for your monsters based on their level, that counts for your opponent as well. We play 2. If you don't want to play 2 for whatever reason, you could run a second Albion, or you could add 1 Comedy, for example, for the extra protection, but I choose to run 2 because it's an incredible extender. That is for the Despia monsters. For the Despia spell and traps, we have 1 Theater. Theater is basically a polymerization that you can use each turn and acts as a field spell. The extra effect that it has is if a face-up non-fusion fairy monster you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect or is destroyed by battle, you can target one level 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard and you special summon it. It adds recursion. It's an incredibly powerful card. You only run it once because you want to search it most of the times. You don't want to open it. We play triple branded opening. Branded opening, you discard 1 card, then you can take 1 Despia monster from your deck and you can either add it to your hand or you can special summon it in the face position, but it will lock you into only using fusion monsters from your extra deck. So that means you can't go into Predaplant, Verta Anaconda, or the other link options that I will show you in the extra deck. And if a fusion monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, fusion monsters, for all your monsters, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. There are so many applications where you can abuse this card to save your monsters. That is so incredible, and most of the times your opponents will forget that extra protection from your branded opening. And I will show you one replay with one of my opponents completely forgetting that I had branded opening to the field for the extra protection for my fusion monsters, and that won me the game basically. 3 branded opening, and lastly 3 branded in red. Branded in red, especially in Thunder Dragons, and with the Thunder Dragon engine, I mean, into the Despia deck, is so much more powerful than it already was. What it does is you target 1 Despia monster or Fallen of Albas in your graveyard, you add it to your hand, and then you fusion summon 1 level 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from your hand or field, but it cannot attack during the turn you activate it and special summon that monster with branded in red. It's a quick play as well with your branded opening, so you can actually just set them and use them on your opponent's turn for either board interruption or for your branded in red for the extra, for the fact that it cannot attack the turn that it's summoned, so that won't actually hurt you at all if you do it on your opponent's turn, for that extra burn damage, for example, if you could get another Masquerade. For the Thunder Dragon core, we run triple Thunder Dragon. What he does, you discard 1 copy of Thunder Dragon and then you can add up to the other 2 copies that you have into your deck. He's a light monster. Most of the times you will use him as a fusion material or you will just use him as discard fodder, but he's there because he's a light monster and we want to have light monsters into our hand. We play 2 Thunder Dragon Darks. What he does as a quick effect, you can discard him and you can add the other Thunder Dragon Dark from your deck into your hand. And if he is banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, and this is an effect for all of your Thunder Dragon monsters, that if they are banished or they are sent from the field to the graveyard, they have an extra effect. Thunder Dragon Dark, extra effect is that you can add 1 Thunder Dragon card from your deck into your hand, except himself. He's basically your searcher if he's getting banished. Thunder Dragon Hawk, you can discard this card and you can special summon 1 of your Thunder Dragon monsters that is banished or is in your graveyard except itself, and if it's banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can shuffle any number of cards from your hand into the deck, then you draw the same number of cards. Basically, he will unbrick your hands in situations where you have a shitty hand, with cards like Cold Sarcophagus, etc. So if you play Thunder Dragons, you know how powerful this card is. And lastly, 2 Thunder Dragon Roars. You can discard this card, add to your hand 1 of your Thunder Dragon cards that is banished or in your graveyard, except himself, and if he's banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Thunder Dragon or monster from your deck in defense position, but you return it to your hand during the end phase. So that is basically for the entire Thunder Dragon package. Obviously, before I forget, we also run the Thunder Dragon Duel and the Thunder Dragon Fusion. Dragon Duel is one of the 4 Chaos monsters we choose to play into our deck. Chaos monsters basically require, in order to be summoned from the hand, special summon from the hand, you need to banish 1 light and 1 dark monster in order to be special summoned. And we want these 4 Chaos monsters, so you can banish your Thunder Dragon monsters and activate their banished effects. We have 1 Thunder Dragon Duel because you can search him off of the banished effect of Dragon Dark. What Dragon Duel does is, it obviously, as I've said, in order to be special summoned from the hand, you need to banish 1 light and 1 dark monster from your graveyard. Once per turn, if a monster effect is activated in the hand, both for you and your opponent as well, this card gains 300 attack until the end of this turn. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can banish 1 card from your graveyard and you add 1 Thunder monster from your deck into your hand. Once per turn, during your opponent's end phase, you can target 1 of your banished cards, place it into the top or bottom of your deck. It has a decent recursion, it's a decent beat stick, and you can also add your Chaos Creator for follow-up. So let's go straight into him. Chaos Creator, in order to be special summoned, obviously you need to banish 1 light, 1 dark. That's how Chaos monsters work, as I've said. If you control this card that was special summoned from the hand, you can target 3 of your banished monsters with different names. You special summon 1 of them, and the other 2, you put them at the bottom of your deck in any order. So you can basically use him as an extender to special summon something that is banished for either one of the Thunder Dragons or maybe for your DPEs if you got banished by something. And the other 2 Chaos monsters that we have into the deck is Chaos Dragon Levianeer and Chaos Emperor, the Dragon of Armageddon. Chaos Levianeer, if you play Dragon Link, you know how powerful this card is. What it does is, in order to be special summoned, you need to banish 3 light and or dark monsters from your graveyard. When summoned this way, you can activate this effect, apply the following effect based on the attributes of the monster banished for the special summon. Also, this card cannot attack for the rest of this turn. So if you activate the effect when you summon it, you will not be able to attack with Chaos Dragon Levianeer. Keep this in mind. So if you choose to banish 3 lights, you can special summon 1 monster from your graveyard at defense position. If you banish only darks, you can shuffle 1 random card from your opponent's hand into the deck. But if you banish both light and dark, so that is 1 light, 2 darks, etc., destroy up to 2 cards into the field. Doesn't target, phenomenal card, 3k bit stick as well. You can even use his only dark effect, where you can just shuffle 1 card off of your opponent's hand back into the deck. If you play first, then you can choose to do that, but ideally you would want to use it when you go second, so you can just use a distraction effect to destroy cards from your opponent. And lastly, for the Chaos lineup, we run 1 Chaos Emperor. His Pendulum effect is that you can pay 1000 life points, then you can target 1 of your banished dragon monsters, you destroy this card, and if you do, you add that monster into your hand. At worst, you could use this. There are some applications where you can actually use this effect, but mostly you use him for his summoning effect, which is, as I've said, as a Chaos monster. His effect is, must be special summoned from your hand or extra deck by banishing 1 light and 1 dark monster from your graveyard. You can only special summon 1 Chaos Emperor, the Dragon of Armageddon, once per turn this way, and once per turn you can pay half your life points, send as many cards you control as possible to the graveyard except from the extra monster zone, and if you do, send cards your opponent controls to the graveyard up to the number of your cards sent to the graveyard, and then you inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card sent to the graveyard by this card's effect. If this face-up special summoned card leaves the field, you return to the bottom of your deck. This effect can come up, you will be able to use it, and actually sometimes you might win games because of the burn effect and because it sends to the graveyard, it doesn't destroy. So it is one of the ways where you can actually remove cards from your opponent that are not easily removed. And at worst, as I've said, it can even add you 1 of your banished dragon monsters or just use him as a 3k bit stick. That is for our 4 Chaos Monster lineup. You could reduce this number up to like 2, 3 or 1 if you choose to do so, but I believe that 4 right now is perfect, especially because with Dragon Duel, as I've said, that you can search him off of Dragon Dark, can Chaos Levianeer and Chaos Emperor and Chaos Creator as well can all be searched by Chaos Space. And Before we go into the spells, I also need to mention that we also play one Fairy Tail Snow. Fairy Tail Snow, if you play a 60 pile deck or an Aero Grass deck, you know what it does. It's absolutely phenomenal, so powerful. What it does is, if it's normal special summon, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls and you change it to face down, basically a Book of Moon effect. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish 7 other cards from your hand, field and or graveyard to special summon this card. This is one of the ways where you can just banish your Thunder Dragons that you might have in your hand, field, or most of the times in your graveyard, to get her into the field, and you also will have the extra advantage of, because you banish your Thunder Dragons, as we've said, you're going to get their extra effects, or even more advantage, as we've said. This card fits so well into the deck, but we won't play her once. You could play her 2 or 3 times, but one, I feel it's fine. Most of the time it's fine, especially after so many games that I played and tested this deck. I feel like 1 is actually perfect. We played Destiny Hero Celestial Adasser because we have Phoenix Enforcer, obviously. I think that is for the monsters. Before I forget, the last engine that this deck runs, because it's basically a Despia deck that includes the Thunder Dragon core and 4 Chaos monsters. And we also have the Egypt Chain package. With the Egypt Chain package, basically is 3 Egypt Chains with 3 Frightful Patchwork and the 2 polymerizations. What Egypt Chain does is, when this card declares an attack, you can add 1 Egypt Chain from your deck into your hand, and if this card is sent from your hand or field into the graveyard, you can add 1 Frightful card from your deck into your hand. So basically, his first effect, you don't want to activate it most of the times, obviously. You want to always activate its second effect, which, if you send it if it goes into the graveyard in any way from your hand or field, you will search your Frightful Patchwork. What Frightful Patchwork does is, you will add 1 Egypt Chain monster and 1 poly from your deck into your hand. So you will use your Egypt Chain as a fusion material fodder, as you will either discard it for whatever effect, and basically you will add your Frightful Patchwork into your hand, and then you will activate your Frightful Patchwork to add another copy of your Egypt Chain and 1 copy of polymerization, so you can then use it again or keep it for follow-up for the next turn if you choose to do so. Let's go into the spells. As we just said, two polymerizations. We play 1 Fool's Burial and 1 Gold Sarcophagus. These cards are never bricks. You have so many monsters that you can choose to discard or banish and activate their effects. One easy target is Despia Tragedy, that you can search your Aluber or any of your Despia monsters that you want to add. You could banish, as I've said, any of your Thunder Dragon monsters, depending on what you have in your hand, to end up on a Colossus, for example. Or at worst, if you have a shitty hand and you have Gold Sarcophagus, you can banish your Thunder Dragon Hawk and activate this banish effect, and then you will send the 4 cards back into your deck and redraw 4. These cards, as I've said, are never bricks. Absolutely phenomenal. For your draw power, we play triple Allure of Darkness. You draw 2 cards, banish 1 dark. That's why this card is so powerful, because you also, instead of just having the 3 Despia Tragedies for targets, you also have the Thunder Dragon monsters to banish them for Allure of Darkness. Triple Frightful Patchwork, as you said, 1 Thunder Dragon Fusion for your Thunder Dragon Titan, but sometimes for your Colossus even. What it does, you fusion summon 1 Thunder Dragon Fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it to the deck from among your cards into the field, in your graveyard, and or your face-up banished cards. This is most of the times how you will recur your banished cards back into the deck with Thunder Dragon Fusion. And during the main phase, except the turn that this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and you can add 1 Thunder Dragon monster from your deck into your hand. Credible card, we ran it once. You can even use it with cards like Vert Anaconda. It can come up sometimes, it has some implications, but most of the times you will use it to either to special summon either your Colossus or your Titan, to recur some cards from your banished pile back into the deck. Obviously, 2 Fusion Destiny. Everybody knows how powerful Fusion Destiny and Destroy Phoenix Enforcer is. Everybody's abusing him, so why not add him into the deck, right? With Fusion based deck, obviously it works really well with how the deck works. It works really well with Branded Opening. You can keep your Phoenix Enforcer alive for so many turns if you actually use your Branded Opening smart, because when I say smart, I mean you can set up your board with like 1 or 2 Masquerades, and then you can have your Phoenix Enforcer, and then you can keep popping cards. But with cards like Branded Opening, you can actually save your fusion monsters from being destroyed. You need to think about your plays before doing anything when you have branded opening in your graveyard. And the reason I say this is because there are so many applications where you can save your monsters from certain distraction. And as I've said, people will forget that you have branded opening in your graveyard, so that's always another plus. Chaos Space is basically to search your chaos monsters. What it does is you send one light or dark monster, and depending on what you search the opposite. So if you send the light, you will search a dark. If you send a dark, you will search a light. In this deck, what you will do is you will always send the light to search a dark, because we don't have light targets that cannot be special summoned or set. And basically, that's why, as I've said, we have triple Thunder Dragon, or for Fairy Tail Snow as well, right? This is our light targets for Chaos Space. And as I've said, and in case you didn't know, Chaos Space is basically the way to search one of your 4 Chaos monsters. Its second effect is you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your banished light or dark monsters that cannot be normal summoned or set. Place that monster on the bottom of the deck, and then you can draw one card. In my deck profile for Master Duel meta, I ran 2 copies of Chaos Space, and I decided after playing with the deck to just go back into one and add the second copy of Ad Libitum of Despia for more applications, for more extenders. I feel like 1 Chaos Space is fine. Some people can play 3 Chaos Space, but then you need to play the other dragon monsters that are banishing, like Black Dragon, Color Serpent, or White Dragon, Wyverburster. Some people can add these 2, or even you can play 2 copies of each and add it into the deck. But I feel like with this way, it's fine. But I'm just giving you an option in case you don't like how the deck looks at the moment. 2 Super Polys. Super Poly, especially if you play the Fusion Festival, you know how powerful this card is. You discard 1 card, you fusion summon from your extra deck using monsters from either field as fusion material, and neither player can activate effects or cards in response to this card's activation. Phenomenal card. For the extra deck now, we play 1 Starving Venom Fusion Dragon with 1 Predaplant Dragostepelia. These are your general Super Poly targets. Most of the times, if you have Super Poly active, these will be your 2 targets that you will go, because a lot of people will end up on a Phoenix Enforcer and with something else that is dark. What Starving Venom Fusion Dragon does is it requires 2 dark monsters on the field except tokens, and if it's fusion summoned, you can make this card gain attack equal to one of your opponent's special summoned monsters until the end of this turn. His last effect is the most important, which is if this fusion summoned card is destroyed, you destroy all of your opponent's special summoned monsters. Some of the times you might actually get this off if your opponent is not careful with his negates, or he doesn't have Cold by the Grave, for example, to stop this. So it's basically an absolute 0 effect for heroes, in case you know how that card works. A really decent board clear as well, and at worst is like one of your Super Poly targets that you can go off most of the times. Your 1 Predaplant Dragostepelia, it requires 1 fusion monster, 1 dark monster. Once per turn quick effect, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, you place 1 predator counter on it, and if it's level 2 or higher, which will be most of the times, let's be real, it becomes level 1 as long as it has a predator counter. Negate the activated effects of your opponent's monster that have predator counters. So it's a targeted negation, and it also, the target that has the predator counter will go to level 1. So for decks that are using synchro monsters like Swordsoul, Tenyi, that you know that are incredible right now, and everybody's playing it on the ladder, especially if you are platinum or higher, but probably lower as well, you will get their monsters back to level 1. So that means that they will not actually be able to use them to go into their synchro summons. So that is an extra application and an extra layer of interruption that this card adds into our deck. So yeah, Predaplant Dragostepelia, 1 Thunder Dragon Colossus and 1 Thunder Dragon Titan. Thunder Dragon Colossus requires 1 Thunder Dragon and 1 Thunder Dragon monster, and must be either fusion summoned or special summoned during the turn a Thunder monster effect was activated in the hand, by attributing 1 Thunder effect non-fusion monster, in which case you do not use polymerization. You can basically get into your Colossus with cards like one of your Thunder Dragons that you can have into the graveyard with one of your Thunder Dragon Hawk. By having 1 Thunder Dragon to your graveyard, you can discard your Thunder Dragon Hawk to special summon the Thunder Dragon, and then use the Thunder Dragon to go into your Thunder Dragon Colossus. His effect is basically cards cannot be added from the main deck to your opponent's hand except by drawing them, And if this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish one Thunder Dragon monster from your graveyard. It's not once per turn, and it's also one of the ways why this card is so sticky and it's so difficult to get rid of. And also the fact that it banishes one Thunder monster from your graveyard will be one of the extra ways that you can banish your Thunder Dragons to activate their effects. An incredibly powerful card. For one Thunder Dragon Titan, requires 3 Thunder Dragon monsters, must be either fusion summoned or special summoned by banishing one Thunder monster from your hand and one Thunder fusion monster you control, except Titan, in which case you do not use polymerization. When a Thunder monster effect is activated in the hand, for both players, so if you play a mirror match, you can activate him where your opponent activates Thunder monster. Even during the damage step, quick effect, you can destroy one card of the field, and if this card would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish 2 cards from your graveyard instead. So Titan is easier to get rid of because it has only protection against card effects, and like your Colossus, for example, has protection from both. That's why I said Colossus is more sticky, but Titan obviously has more attack and has that extra distraction effect that it will come up most of the times that if you use your Thunder Dragon effects from your hand smartly. If you do not like Thunder Dragon, you can completely remove him with that copy of Thunder Dragon Fusion and adding a second copy of Albion, for example. And on your extra deck, you could add, instead of having the Titan, you could have the Mad Dragon of the Swamp. But I choose to play Titan still because I really like how he integrates more power into the deck. He can also come up with using our Predaplant Vertanaconda and just sending the Thunder Dragon Fusion. And then, if you have a handful of Thunder Dragons, we go from there with his effect to destroy cards. For the Fallen of Albas targets, we run one Titanic Lad and one Albion. Titanic Lad is basically a target for Fallen of Albas, in the most common one that you will use, because it requires Fallen of Albas and one monster with 2500 attack or more. And his second effect is the most important part, which says that during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there, you can add one Dogmatica monster, one Fallen of Albas. This effect, in our case, because we play one Fallen of Albas, doesn't matter. But as I've said, because we only run this as a Fallen of Albas target to disrupt our opponent, but you could add the second copy of Fallen of Albas if you would want to activate and abuse his second effect even more. But in my opinion, I believe that one Fallen of Albas is fine. You do not want to draw him. Most of the times, you want to search him with cards like Despia Thunder Dragon, etc., which I will go in a second. Albion the Branded Dragon is basically your miracle fusion for the deck. What he requires in order to be special summoned is one Fallen of Albas and one light monster. If this card is fusion summoned, you can fusion summon one level 8 or lower fusion monster from your extra deck, except Albion the Branded Dragon, by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from your hand, field, and or graveyard. During the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was centered this turn, you can add to your hand or set one branded spell trap directly from your deck. An incredible card, absolutely phenomenal. It is also one of the ways where you can banish materials to make any of your Despia monsters that require just one Despia monster and one light or dark monster, so that could be any of your Thunder Dragon monsters, to activate their banished effect, which is so fucking powerful. Let's be real. Two Despia Corvettes requires one Despia monster and one light or dark monster, just like the rest of the Despia fusion monsters. During the main phase, you can quick effect change the attack of all monsters currently in the field to 0 until the end of this turn, except level 8 or higher fusion monsters. If this face-up card in its opponent's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can add to your hand or special summon one Fallen of Albas or a Despia monster from your deck. So basically, this is one of the ways where you can special summon another Eluber to activate the Surge, or you can special summon, your Fallen of Albas from your deck and use its effect to super poly one of his monsters and Fallen of Albas to going into either Titanic Lad or Albion the Branded for more interruption. He's also the first effect to change the attack of all monsters currently in the field to 0 is also a great counter to Appaloosa, which I have replayed to show this, which is incredible. One Destroy Phoenix Enforcer. You're probably tired of seeing this. It's an incredibly powerful card. It has warped the meta completely for Master Duel because everybody runs it. Like if you bricked, at worst you can fusion Destiny and go into Destroy Phoenix Enforcer, and most of the times if your opponent has bricked as well, that is enough for you to actually have a significant advantage. In case you don't know what it does, you destroy both one card you control and one card on the field. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, activate his effect. You special summon one Destiny Hero monster from your graveyard during the standby phase of the next turn, so you can get him back to the field again and again. There are applications where you can protect him from getting destroyed with Branded Opening, so be aware that when he is about to be destroyed by Fusion Destiny, you'll have the prompt that if you have Branded Opening into the graveyard, you can actually protect your Phoenix Destroyer from being destroyed, in case you know that your opponent has Called by the Grave or something, or you suspect that he might have. Branded Opening is one of the ways where you can protect your Phoenix Enforcer from being destroyed or getting Called by the Graves. We ran 3 Masquerade of the Blazing Dragon. Masquerade the Blazing Dragon is actually one of the cards that you can easily go into 3 if you have a decent to a good hand, believe it or not. What he does is, if you control this fusion summon card, your opponent must pay 600 life points to activate cards or effects. This effect stacks, so if you have 3, you will burn your opponent for 1800 life points. That is phenomenal, an incredible card. It's so much fun to play this. What it does is, if your opponent controls a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Excisor, or Link monster, while this card is in your graveyard, quick effect, you can special summon this card, but you banish it when it leaves the field. It's an 8 level monster with 2.5k attack, pretty decent. We ran it 3 of him. 1 Despia Proscenion. Despia Proscenion is a niche extra deck slot that you can remove if you don't like it. I choose to play it still because his effect can come up, which I will read. It requires 1 Despia monster, 1 light and 1 dark, and during the main phase, quick effect, you can target 1 Fusion, Synchro, Excisor, or Link monster in your opponent's graveyard, and you can either banish it or you can special summon it into your field. So it's one of the ways that you can get one of your opponent's boss monsters or his Destroy Phoenix Enforcer back into your field. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack or defense, whichever is higher. You can only use each effect once per turn. It's a pretty decent card. It's not as hard to get out as a lot of people might think, because if you have Super Poly and your opponent plays a lot of dark monsters or light monsters, it's an easy target to get out, and I really like to play it. And lastly, for our Link monsters, obviously 1 Predaplant Vert Anaconda. Before we go into the other Link monster, I need to remind people that the first effect of Predaplant Vert Anaconda is actually so useful into this deck. The first effect is that you can target 1 face-up monster on the field and you can make it dark. So that means that you can make another monster of your opponent that is hard to get rid of, make it into dark, and then you pay 200 life points, and instead of sending Fusion Destiny, for example, you send Super Poly, and then you can make either Starving Venom, or if that monster was a fusion monster, make a Predaplant Dragostopelia for an extra negate and interruption. Lastly, Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. This card is so powerful in this current meta, and especially with this deck, because you will have you will notice in a lot of games if you play this deck that you will have a lot of fodder monsters into the field, and your opponent monster, which is most likely will be their boss monster, will be something that you cannot get rid of using this general strategy. Underworld Goddess of the Closed World is one of the ways where you can get rid of a lot of boss monsters that you might not be able to otherwise. It requires 4 effect monsters, and you can also use 1 monster your opponent controls as material to link summon this card. If this card is link summoned, you can negate the effect of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. This link summoned card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target this card, and once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that special summons a monster from your graveyard, quick effect, you can negate the activation. Also one of the ways where you can negate DPE from getting back into the field. I really like this card. I choose to splice it in almost every single deck that I make, and obviously if you do not like it, you want to play something else, you can play Mad Dragon, or you could play any other fusion monster that you might like, or you might have, into your deck. I also wanted to showcase something else that I have. I have 1 King of the Swamp. In case you have King of the Swamp as well, with him and any other monster, you can actually make Mechaba into this deck. Because Mechaba requires 1 Alistair and 1 Light monster, right? But with King of the Swamp, if you read him, he says this card can be used as a substitute for any 1 fusion material whose name is specifically listed on the fusion monster card. But the other fusion material must be correct. And you can also discard this card to add 1 poly from your deck. If you have him, you can obviously, and you have him and Mechaba as well, You can choose to add him as an extra searcher for your polys, and also for Mechaba for an extra negate for your deck to use. I'm choosing to share this in case you might not like some of the options that I have, some of the cards that I choose to have into this deck. As I've said, if you don't want to play 4 Chaos Monsters, you can reduce their number, or if you don't want to play Thunder Dragon Fusion with Titan. But I feel like this way the deck works perfectly. As I've said at the start of the deck profile, you'll need to be aware of how the Despia cards work, and obviously how the Thunder Dragon work as well. If you understand how they work, then this deck will be so lethal if you use it properly. So let's go and showcase some replays for you guys to see how strong this deck can really get. On the first replay, we're playing first, and you're going to see we have a really good hand. We're going to Allure of Darkness, and we're gonna banish our Tragedy to activate its search. We're gonna chain Dragon Dark to search the other copy as well. Our opponent doesn't have any hand traps to stop us, at least we think for now, right? And we go off. Tragedy is gonna search us our Royal Rare Aluber. We're gonna activate Dragonhawk first to special summon Dragon Dark to go into our Colossus. And now we're going to normal summon Aluber to activate the search, and our opponent has infinite permanence, unfortunately for us. But we feel safe, we have 1 Maxi, we have Super Poly, we're probably going to be fine, right? Setting the Super Poly, and on the draw phase we're going to activate Maxi. Our opponent has no response, and he's going to actually use his Kaiju for a Colossus, and he's playing fucking Numeron. I fucking hate this deck. He's going into his combo. He distributed his Pathfinder to search his network. If you play this deck, you know how it works. Basically summons his 4 Numeron monsters and he goes for the attack to double their attack. We're going to Super Poly now, discarding Fertile Snow and using our Aluber and his monster to make where it is. He's going to chain Limited Removal to double their attack. I'm going to chain Snow, and I'm going to banish 7 cards. 2 cards that I'm going to banish are the Thunder Dragon monsters to activate their effects, Dragonhawk and Dragon Dark. We're going to chain those effects. We're going to chain Snow as well to turn his monsters to face down. I fucking love Snow, it's so incredible. Chain resolves, he has no response. Dragon Dark will set us Dragon Roar, and Dragonhawk will activate to send these 3 cards back into the deck to redraw for something else. We have an incredible hand now, we have Ad Libitum, we have Branded Red. Our opponent will just end his battle phase. We'll go to his Chaos Gate. Chaos Gate Sanya to activate this effect to banish everything. We'll keep drawing because he's under Maxi, right? Carietis will activate to special summon an Aluber from the deck for the extra search. Like at this point our opponent is dead, right? He knows that. He has 1 card on his hand. He's probably dead, right? We draw a Cold by the Grave in case he had any hand traps. Like, we are set, right? We activate Theater and we chain Branded Opening. We're discarding Tragedy to add Dramaturge. Tragedy is going to search us another Aluber for follow-up. We're going to use Theater to fusion summon using Aluber and Dramaturge to go into 1 Masquerade for the burns, as we've said. Dramaturge will activate to special summon because it was used for a fusion summon. We're going to Branded in red, get the Tragedy back into our hand, and we're going to banish our Dragon Dark and our Ad Libitum to special summon the 2nd Masquerade. And at that point, our opponent scoops, because at that point we also had the banish effects of Ad Libitum to special summon something else and Dragon Dark for the search. Like, basically our opponent was done at that point, right? Because if Numeron cannot kill you at 2nd turn, when they're going 2nd, they're basically done. So let's go for replay number 2. For the 2nd replay, we're going 2nd, and our opponent is playing Swordsoul Tenyi. Wow, who could expect that, right? Swordsoul Tenyi is one of the most powerful decks currently at the meta, and obviously that is because it has so many plays that it can make. We have no hand traps. He goes into his plays, going into his Crystal Hulky Fibrax, special summoning his Jet Synchron to go to Auroradon. Auroradon got banned in the TCG, thank fuck. Hopefully it will get banned in Master Duel as well. Someone can hope, right? He goes into his combo. He special summons 1 Rebecca Phantom Bestow Lion to go into his Denglong. He uses effect for Denglong to send Tenyi monster into the graveyard. He goes into Baron with Denglong and 1 token, for the negation. He activates Zenklong's effect to special summon one Yang Zing from the deck into the field. He's discarding to activate his effects now. He's activating Ashuna to banish and special summon Vishuda. With Jet Synchron and Vishuda, he goes into his Shizhao to search, his Blackout for interruption for him. He's gonna banish his Atara as well to return the other Ashuna back into his hand for his follow-up, and he's going to set Blackout and one other card. We have a decent hand. We draw into Dramaturge. We're gonna activate a Thunder Dragon first to add the other 2 copies first back into our deck. We're going to normal summon our Tragedy and chain Super Pole immediately, discarding one Thunder Dragon to go into our Karetis. We go Karetis first because you were about to see. We're activating Despia Tragedy to search to get our Aluber, right? We activate Karetis to get all of his monsters to 0, and he chains to negate and destroy. We don't bite at all. The chain will resolve. Karetis is going to get destroyed. His effect will activate to special summon a monster. We're going to special summon a Luber because we want to actually get rid of his Baron de Floor, right? To activate this effect, discarding the other Thunder Dragon that we had into our hand, and he's going to chain 9 Pillars of Yang Zing, which is basically a nominal negate if he has a Yang Zing monster on the field. He changed that. We cannot do anything about that, obviously. So we basically got all of his negates on the field, and now he has a Blackout left. Our Fallen of Alvas goes back into the deck. He special summons another Yang Zing monster. We go into our Fusion Destiny, right? Everybody knows how powerful that is. Destiny Hero Enforcer is on the field. We go into the battle phase, and if you see, I choose to activate his destruction effect on the battle phase. Why in the battle phase, you may ask? Because you could have cards in his hand like Effect Veiler, which these cards can only activate on the main phase, and I do not want him to negate that destruction. That's why I activated his effect on the battle phase, to avoid cards like Effect Veiler. We activate his effect to destroy his Baron. Obviously, our Phoenix Enforcer will resolve. We're ending our phase. Turns change. On the standby, Destiny destroy Phoenix Enforcer will get back into the field, and our opponent will chain Vishuda to return him back. We're obviously going to chain to destroy his Blackout. Chain will resolve. Vishuda loses its target. Destroy Phoenix Enforcer will resolve. He activates his Ashuna from hand. He's going into his Monk of the Tenyi, sorry. Activating Ashuna from the graveyard to banish to special summon Adhara. And then he goes into his Chen Ying, actually. And he's going to finish his turn, obviously after the battle phase. Dealing some damage, finishing his turn. In our turn, we're going to misplay a bit. He's going to Maxi. Alright. Destroy Phoenix Enforcer will get back into the field. We're going to normal summon a Luber. Get our Despia Theater into our hand. We're going to activate Despia Theater, fusing the cards into our hand, both Egypt Chain and Dramaturge, to go into Karetis again. Activating Dramaturge and Egypt Chain for the search and the special summon. And we're going to chain Karetis to reduce all monsters on the field to 0 that are not Fusion level 8 monsters. And we're going to search for the Frightful Patchwork. The misplay that I made here was activating Allure of Darkness, because Allure of Darkness, what it does, we draw 2 and then we banish 1 dark. But I forgot that if you banish a card, his effect, Chen Ying's effect, will activate. That it says that if this card would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish 1 card. Yeah, we know that. But then it says if a card is banished, so that means for your opponent as well, for me. And I didn't know that. I thought it was only for him. So that was a big misplay that I made that you're about to see. We're going to activate the search first to get the Egypt Chain into our hands for the dark, to actually be able to banish something for Allure of Darkness. We draw Ash and Fusion Destiny, both dead draws, and because we banish, his effect activates. And now I panicked a bit here, so I was like, fuck. Chaining, destroying Phoenix Enforcer, destroying his card, but he chose to banish, obviously, a card from his graveyard to save him. So that was the misplay that I made. I could have actually killed him, but I misplayed there a bit. But I just set Fusion Destiny just in case he thinks that I have more interruption, and or his draw phase he scoops, because you obviously didn't have any follow-up. So you can see that this deck has so much power with the extra Thunder Dragon monsters that you can integrate to the deck. Let's go for replay number 3. For the third replay, we're going second again with a decent hand, Allure of Darkness in our hand and an opening hand, and we're playing against the Thunder Dragon deck. He's using Chaos Space, doing his combo, banishing his Thunder Dragons because he activated the Lupine. He's chaining their effects. If you have played the Thunder Dragon deck, you know how it works. They just have cards that banish cards from your hand or field, and then you activate their effects when they're banished. He's going to link summon his Cross Ship by using one Dragon Matrix and a Lupine. He goes into his combo. I have no interruptions into our hand, so we have to actually watch him. He's going to get the first Thunder Dragon Titan into the field. Cross Ship effect will activate, special summon a card from the graveyard. He will go into his IP. He has still 2 cards in hand, activating Color Serpent to get the Weaver Buster from the deck. He's special summoning Weaver Buster to get Chaos Space. He's banishing Chaos Space, get the Black Dragon back into the deck to draw 1. He's using Fusion Destiny as well for the extra interruption, right? To getting DPE into the field. And he's going to end the board here, which is a pretty decent board. It's actually a pretty good board, right? He has a lot of interruptions here. We're drawing our Aluber. It's a great draw. In our Frightful Patchwork, he chains IP. He wants to go into his Appaloosa. And now he has 3 monster gates and 2 pops for interruption. We're going to get our Edgem Chainer Polymerization with Frightful Patchwork. He activates his Weaver Buster to add the Color Serpent to his hand. We're going to Allure. We're going to banish one of the 3 Edgem Chains we have into our hand, unfortunately. We're going to Super Poly using Dramaturge and 1 Edgem Chain to get Carvetis into the field. We're getting Carvetis into the field. We're going to chain Dramaturge first and then Edgem Chain to protect it. He's going to chain Appaloosa, and what we do here is we're chaining Carvetis. What Carvetis does, as we've said in the deck profile, he reduces every single monster that isn't level 8 or higher fusion monster. He changes their attack to 0. And Appaloosa, in order to negate, it needs to reduce its original attack. It needs to reduce its attack by 800. So if it goes to 0, it will not be able to actually negate the effect. So by chaining Carvetis after Appaloosa, I basically save myself from the negate. He chains discarding Dragon Matrix to activate Titan. We don't really care at this point. The chain will resolve. Dragon Titan will target our Carvetis. Carvetis will resolve. His Appaloosa will go to 0, and he will not be able to negate our effect. Dramaturge will special summon into the field. Carvetis will resolve, special summoning Albaz. We're going to use Albaz to discard Edgem Chain. He's going to chain his DPE, which was a good thing for him, right? He's going to destroy Appaloosa and our Albaz, so our Albaz will not be able to go into his Super Poly target. And now we're free to play, right? We got all of his interruptions. So now we're going to normal summon Aluber. We get branded opening, sorry. We're going to attack to destroy his Phoenix Enforcer. We're going to go into our Predaplant Vert Anaconda, use its effect to make his Titan into dark, and then I'm going to pay 200, send Super Poly, and then make Dragostapelia, and set opening and in red, branded in red into our field. In the draw phase, I will chain Maxi, and in draw phase as well, I choose to go for branded opening and branded in red, because on draw phase, they cannot draw and lock Purge. So if they have drawn and lock, which can all be activated on main phase, using this effect on draw phase, basically, you will dodge cards like that, right? And I wanted to avoid that chance of him having drawn Lockbird. So I activated both branded opening, as you will see, and branded in red in the draw phase. So with branded opening, we discarded our Frightful Patchwork to get the Tragedy, and then we activate branded in red, getting Dramaturge of Despia into our hand, and then we're gonna banish both to fusion summon on Masquerade. We're also going to chain both of these effects for the search from Despian Tragedy for the follow-up, and for the Dramaturge of Despia to be special summoned into the field. So we have a really good board, and follow-up as well for the next turn. And our opponent is also under Max C. he's going to get his Phoenix Enforcer out. We're going to chain Dramaturge. He will chain DPE, but we'll chain Dragostapelia to negate its effect. Chain will resolve. His effect will be negated, and our card's attack will get back to normal. And then he will start his combo again to banish his Thunder Dragons with Hello Lupine, and you will see that our burn is going to keep going. You're going to keep burning him. He's adding his Thunder Dragon Fusion for his second Thunder Dragon Titan, because usually Thunder Dragon decks run 2 Thunder Dragon Titans. He's going to link summon into Unicorn, but he will not actually use its effect, and he will go straight into Access Code. Masquerade is going to keep burning him, right? He will target Destroy, and we are going to use our Branded Opening once to save our Masquerade for an extra burn. He will do it again to destroy the Masquerade. Aluber will activate, and I will chain Masquerade to special summon both into the field. I also chain Dragon Dark to draw the other Dragon Dark, because he's under Maxi, right? So we want to draw different cards. We wouldn't want to draw the second Dragon Dark. So we special summon our Masquerade back, and Aluber is special summoned to the field as well to negate his Access Code. He will use his last card into the hand, that's why he didn't discard his Thunder Dragon Fusion to go into his second Titan. He's banishing his Thunder Dragon Fusion to draw one card, to get the Dragonhawk, sorry. He will use the Dragonhawk's effect. He will chain Titan to destroy one card into our field. As you can see, these games can get a bit tricky, so one misplay could actually lose you the game. He destroyed our Masquerade. He'll banish Malicious to get the other Malicious back into the deck and back into the field. He will also use his Dasher to get the other Malicious back into the deck. He will link Climb into using Phoenix, and the reason he did that, you will about to see why, is because he wants to actually reclimb back again with his link summons. He was actually going to go into his own Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, get rid of our Dramaturge. He's going to his Thunder Dragon Colossus, and he actually got back into the game with this play. But we have a lot of cards in our hand because he was under Maxi. At this point, we don't have a lot of time to actually play. So I'm a bit on a panic mode, right? So I have to actually play a little bit faster now. So what we do is activate Theater fast, discard Dragon Roar. He activates Titan. We're gonna chain Branded in red. Chain will resolve. I think I made a misplay here by summoning Proskenion. I should have summoned Quadratus, but I actually realized that after the replay, obviously. But yeah, the chain resolves. Titan will destroy my Proskenion, which was a waste, honestly. Dramaturge will chain. Aluber will chain as well. He will be special summoned. He chains Underworld Goddess to negate the special summon of Aluber. But Dramaturge will get back into the field. We're gonna special summon Chaos Creator. We're going to target 3 banished targets. We're gonna get Quadratus back into the field and send Tragedy and Dragon Roar back into our deck. We're going to chain Dramaturge to negate his Colossus. Allure of Darkness to draw 2. Banishing the Dragon Dark to get us the Thunder Dragon, because I wanted to discard him for Chaos Space because I had in my hand to get Dragon Duel. I'm gonna chain Quadratus. That was the misplay that I made here. I should have not used Quadratus here. That was pointless, but I wanted to show this in the replay because sometimes you will make misplays when you are under pressure of time, because I think I had like less than 1 minute here. But you can see we're going to our Titan because I have Thunder Fusion in hand, specially summoning Dragon Duel for an extender, and we're going to attack over his monsters. His Colossus was negated by our Dramaturge, as you can see, and then we will go off and kill our opponent. That was a pretty nasty game. Like, games like that, one misplay could cost you the game, so you need to be aware. And that's why I've said this deck is a bit difficult. Like, even for me, with so many games under my belt, it can still be difficult. But there's always a way that you can make plays like that. And obviously, he was under Maxi. I had so many cards in my hand. I couldn't lose, right? Then file a replay. We're going first. We have a decent hand. we're going to Frightful Patchwork first to check for hand traps. He has none. We're going to search for Enchip and Polymerization. Aluber is going to search as Branded Opening, and you will see why. We're going to use Opening to discard Tragedy to search Despia, Dramaturgy of Despia. Despia and Tragedy will search as one comedy. I actually had one comedy and I was testing into this replay, but I removed it after. We're going to use Poly to special summon one Masquerade. We're going to chain Edgem Chain and Dramaturge of Despia, which we just used to make Masquerade. Dramaturge will special summon and Edgem Chain will give us Frightful Patchwork. We're going to Poly again, using our Aluber into the field and our comedy to make the second Masquerade. And now you will see our opponent is actually playing heroes, and you will see the burn going off for him again and again. And you can see the advantage that we have because we also have Branded in red into our graveyard to protect our fusion monsters, right? And you can see that for every play that he makes, he's burning for 1200 damage, which is insane, right? But what I mentioned in the deck profile, our opponent forgot that we had Branded Opening into our graveyard. He will go into his Absolute Zero thinking that he can destroy our cards. He will link into his Wonder Driver, and he will try to activate Absolute Zero into the graveyard, obviously. But we will just banish Branded Opening to protect our fusion monsters, and he just scoops. Right? That's why I searched Branded Opening, because I knew with the hand that I have, with 2 polymerizations, that I could make 2 Masquerades and basically burn my opponent. Obviously in this case, I was lucky, right? He could be a same deck with using Super Polys and he could completely destroy me, but he was actually playing a fusion based deck, right? Maybe he didn't play Super Poly, or he played but he didn't enjoy it. But my point is, if you know how to use your hands properly, and you can think ahead of a few turns, like I just did with just getting Branded Opening instead of the Theater, then I can just put my monsters in attack position instead of defense position to avoid the Lightning Storms, right? That most of the people will do. And with Branded Opening, most of the times people will forget that it has the protection where you can banish it off of the graveyard and save your monsters. But either way, that was for the deck profile and the guide, guys. If you enjoy content like this, hopefully I have earned your subscription. But I also wanted to mention that after this video, I'm working on the relinquished deck profile and also for a surprise for something else. But yeah, either way, that was it for the day, guys. Thanks again for watching, and take care now. Bye bye then.